Welcome to FASTBytes, a series of quick and easy modules to understand the FHIR standard. In Module 2, we go through the definition and types of FHIR resources. Let's understand how the FHIR standard works. The basic building block of a FHIR message is called a resource. This is the atomic unit of message exchange in FHIR. A FHIR resource can be an individual packet of information that includes metadata, text, or particular data elements, but can also be bundled into collections that create clinical documents similar to the CCDA. FHIR is, however, much more flexible than CCDA. The FHIR specification defines a series of different types of resources that can be used to exchange or store data in order to solve clinical and administrative problems. So instead of getting the whole information, users can pick and choose individual resources or create a bundle with selected resources. A resource is an entity that has a known identity, also known as a logical ID, assigned by the server responsible for storing it. The logical ID never changes for a resource. It could be a location URL or a business identifier. It uses a common set of metadata that provides technical and workflow context to the resource, such as resource version, the time of last update, and the source of information. It has a common way to define and represent information using reusable data types. It contains a set of structured data items, as described by the definition of the resource type. It also includes the human-readable XHTML narrative. This gives users a summary of the essential data and the resource, which becomes a fallback, in case there are limitations with interpreting resource information. Additional information is covered using extensions. This allows resources to be customized to support specific use cases. Finally, a resource can be represented in various web formats like JSON, XML, and Turtle. Now let's see how resources are organized. FHIR has 5 categories of resources, based on their composition and use. Foundation resources are the most basic resources used for administrative and security processes. Base resources are designed with reference to commonly used healthcare concepts, such as patients, visits, or devices. Next, clinical resources provide diagnostic information such as observations, medications, and care protocols. These generally work in tandem with base resources. For example, a resource like medications will reference the individual resources from the previous layer. Financial resources are intended for payers to gather member information, such as coverage, claim, and payment. These build on clinical and base resources. For example, a billing resource will reference clinical events and activities as well as base resources like an individual patient. Specialized resources are used for advanced use cases across clinical quality reporting, decision support, and clinical research. These resources almost always reference resources in lower layers. Resource contextualization is used to extend resources through profiles and graphs. We now explore the hierarchy of resources and how messages are exchanged using these. The simplest form of a resource, also known as a base resource, will have a logical ID, a type, structured data according to the type, implicit rules, and a base language. This is the basic building block for all other types of resources. Domain resource acts as a parent for other resources that carry healthcare data. It is an abstract resource that provides 3 important facilities to its descendants. First, a human-readable XHTML representation of the content of the resource. For example, an identifier like name or date of birth can be a summary for patient resource. Second, additional related resources that can be referenced inside the resource. For example, an organization resource with which the patient is associated can be referenced inside the patient resource. And third, a facility to have additional extensions to fulfill local interoperability needs. For example, place of birth can be included as an extension which is otherwise not captured using the patient resource. Various types of resources are derived from domain resource. They can contain text, other contained resources, extensions, and data elements specific to a domain. Each resource type is specific to a domain and purpose. A resource is made of data elements, with a different set of elements for every type of resource. For example, a patient resource will have different set of data elements as compared to an appointment resource. Every data element will have a data type, cardinality, and flags associated with it. A resource in FHIR may need to refer to another resource. For example, an observation resource states the observation reported for a patient, so it will contain a reference to a patient resource. References can be internal or external. In internal references, the contained resource is referred. In an external reference, both referred and referring resources would be independent of each other. Another important feature of resources is extensibility. Every FHIR resource can be extended by adding new elements. This is a fundamental part of the FHIR specification. Conformance resources specify how FHIR needs to be implemented. This FASTByte is brought to you by Sidious Tech. Our FAST Plus solution is an end-to-end FHIR implementation suite that enables healthcare organizations to address a variety of needs, such as setting up FHIR servers, pre-built FHIR APIs, identity and access management, consent management, parsers, data ingestion, data repositories, API management, and bulk FHIR transactions. FAST Plus is supported by our healthcare interoperability team with more than 500 HL7 and FHIR certified professionals. To see how FAST Plus can address your FHIR needs, talk to us today.